I was brought up in a very interesting family where, as I was growing up, in my sibling group, all the males used to do science and all the women used to do arts. So it was a very clear pattern. So as soon as you were born, the subject that you would choose in school was decided. If you were a guy, you simply did engineering, which was the default choice. And, then one or two of them would take the road less traveled, if you will, and became doctors. And then, of course, there were women who did different shades of arts, languages, literature. The people who took the road less traveled did psychology. So that was pretty much the defined path. So now the challenge with that model is that the moment you sort of, I thought of taking sciences, it would be a challenge because all my cousins were, doing very well and they always used to score in the 90 plus, 95, and I knew that was not possible. And then when I looked at my other cousins who had taken arts, they used to get 60s and 65s in literature. That made it a very complex question because I knew if I did arts, I wouldn't do as well. So then I opted for the road less traveled and chose commerce. Now, everybody in the family was very unhappy about it, but what it did was it stopped the comparison. Because, if you get 70, now you don't know whether it is good or bad because there is no benchmark. So no matter what I did, my grandfather would come up and say, how much did the others get? I would say, I really don't know. So what do you mean you don't know? So I'd say, I just compete with myself, which kind of settled my grandfather's problem for a very long time until he discovered the trick and learned to ask a different set of questions, but that's for another talk. As they say that, when you dish out something to someone, life has a way of dishing it back to you. This is actually a situation when my son was growing up. So we asked him, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And for a long time, when the kids are very young, they say the usual good things like, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a ice cream seller, which is kind of cute. And then, so I used to say all this in front of others, and I used to feel extremely like a, typical proud parent. My son wants to be a, ice cream seller, that's so cute. And then my son actually destroyed that model by saying, I want to be Hanuman. This was extremely embarrassing, so we said, well, he doesn't quite know us yet. And then we told him, be reasonable and be practical. What do you mean, be Hanuman? And so, what is that supposed to be? And he said, no, so those days the television was showing this serial on Hanuman, and we realized our big challenge was, this was neither a reasonable, choice of career. What's he going to do? How can you earn a living out of that? So therefore it's not practical either. So our first thing that we did was to impose exactly what I had disliked when I was making my career choices, was to tell my son that, you need to be reasonable, you need to be practical. So choose something that what most of the people are doing. And this is really the biggest killer of the road less traveled. Now, if you think about it, who is the person who takes the road less traveled? So if you take the road well traveled, this is really what it looks like. The road well traveled is chaotic. There is all kinds of stuff happening everywhere. There are crowds, there are potholes, and there is no uniqueness. So this is really what happens. And the question you must think about is, there is a question that we all ask, which leads us to this kind of a road, which is a road well traveled. On the other hand, you have two kinds of people who take the road less traveled. The first category is the people who are traveling on a roadless road. Yeah, these are people who just stumbled into something. So this is the road less traveled. They don't have a road, they don't know what they are doing, they just stumble into it, and they depend on serendipity to discover what they are really trying to look for. Which in some instance is also what happened to me in college. So after school, I discovered that when I was growing up, I clearly discovered I didn't like science. Our school didn't offer art, so it sort of killed the choice. I took commerce, yeah. As soon as I studied commerce, I realized I didn't like that. So, it was really not about knowing what you liked, but to take the road less traveled, you must also know what you don't like. And that's very important. We'll understand why. It is not something that you can laugh at, because there are many things in life that we can do. So I was possible at commerce, but I hated it with passion. So, but once you've done commerce in school, then you realize that, then there are limited options. If you don't want to do commerce, what else would you do? So I landed up doing economics. Of course, as soon as I did economics in college, the next sentence, I discovered I didn't want to do economics either. So I did not choose economics for my postgrad. I decided to do human resources, because I thought that is something that kind of roughly made sense to me, though I didn't know what really that did. So I chose human resources. Well, it was not even called human resources at the time when I chose it. It used to be called something like personal management and industrial relations. And therefore, there was no way of knowing, without looking up the dictionary, what on earth that really meant. What will you study? But it sounded intriguing enough. It was something about personnel. I thought it sounded very important. You're dealing with personnel. And so I thought that's something that I should be able to handle. And I landed up doing something, not because I necessarily wanted to do that. I stumbled onto it. And which is the second part, which I'm now going to advocate, is that you need to know what you like and what you don't like, because that's the only way that you can actually take the road less traveled. In this instance, you see that the person has a healthy curiosity, is adventurous, is willing to take the road less traveled, and is going away from that mainstream, and this requires a certain kind of a frame of mind. But before we come to the frame of mind, it actually depends on the question, the complicated question. This is really what leads us to take the well-traveled road. The moment somebody says, what else is everyone doing? Beware, because that basically means the moment you answer that question, you will never take the road less traveled. Because it's going to look like this. This is the normal distribution that I've just simply drawn on top of that cartoon. And as you can see, in the normal distribution, there's the usual stuff. I mean, there are people, we all have our own ways of making sense of the world. We choose courses based on this, and we say, and the number of times I've answered this question, so my kid has got into an MBA program, so should he do finance, or should he do, or she do marketing? I said, what does the kid want to do? The parent inevitably asks that, where does the person get better jobs? And I said, what is a better job? Where will the person make more money? I said, well, there are many ways of making more money. So the parents get disgusted, and they will ask the kid to deal with me. And I said, what do you really want to do? She said, I don't want to do an MBA. So why are you doing it? Because everyone else is doing it. And why is everyone else doing it? Because, everyone else is doing it. And this is exactly the problem. Half the times we make choices based on what others are doing, but it leaves out the two most important pieces. What are you good at? And what is it that you really enjoy doing? Those should be the two questions that you should ask. The first is this important question, what do I enjoy doing? If I were to just ask you right now, how many of you can sing? A few hands will go up. Yeah, and there is always just, 3-4 people will very gingerly put up their hands, and then they will also say, I sing, but I'm not very good at it. Now, this is a problem of our growing up years of conditioning. And we were all told what you are good at and what you enjoy doing always has to be evaluated by others. So therefore, the fact that you enjoy singing is not good enough. You have to be as good as X, Y, or Z. And if you are, in some senses, as good as that, then you can truthfully put up your hand and say, well, I enjoy singing. And if not, then you shouldn't be putting up your hand. And that is why 96% of people will not put up their hands. Now try asking the same question in a school. You go to somebody in the Montessori section and ask how many kids know how to sing. Practically everyone raises their hands. So we are all born knowing how to sing and how to dance and how to compose music and how to paint. And somewhere we learn what we don't enjoy. Because the question that we ask is, what are others doing? So the person who is fond of singing will be sent to a judo class, because everybody in the school by now has become a black belt, and you need to become a black belt. I mean, my son is like, whatever, yellow belt by now, and that's an embarrassment. So you need to be a black belt. This is a bad way of evaluating one's life. The second question to ask is, what am I good at? Because everything that you enjoy doing, you aren't good at, and everything that you are good at, you may not enjoy doing. Let me give you a quick example. When you are good at something, it simply means that you have got a talent to perform that at near perfection level, day in and day out, time after time, naturally. So, in the cricketing example, Sachin has a natural talent for cricket. Now that's an understatement, because we all understand what that means. Because he produces a certain consistency of performance for over the years, throughout his career, and that's what makes him one of the greats. So that's talent. When you look at, there are many people who will have talent of one kind or the other, and everyone has some kind of a strength. So take that element, look at the other side. What do you really enjoy doing? And this is one place where our hobbies can give you the answer. When we've grown up, we've all had some hobbies. And progressively, we've abandoned them because we now say we don't have time to pursue that. Remember, everybody in the Montessori class used to sing, and now none of us do, or maybe 3-4 of us do, and that's sad. Because what is it that we really enjoy doing? The answer very often is in the hobby. And that is the moment when you are pursuing that hobby, when you are painting, when you are making that glass house, you lost track of time. So any activity where no matter how many times you've done it, you lose track of time, that is really what you enjoy doing. It gives you a buzz. And the quality of the output or your skill level is not important. So you will see that there are things that you really, really enjoy doing, where you get completely, you lose track of time. That is your passion. It's very important to keep that in mind whenever you make a choice of any kind, whether it is in terms of your career, whether it is in terms of anything else that you do. So you come up with, a very typical 2x2 matrix. So, there are things that you do which you hate, and there are things that you do which you love. There are things which you are not good at, and there are things that you are terrific at. Now, very clearly, if you ask the two questions, if you say that you are neither good at it and you really hate it, well, the smart thing is to get out of that. Because you can't, things can only improve. You are not liking it, you are not good at it. Get out of it and ask those two questions. This is a great time. If you feel that you've made the wrong choice in terms of your career, your studies, your academics, or anything else that you're doing, in terms of your life partner, anything, this is the time to ask that question. Get out of it and say, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? Then comes the second part of it, which you move on top of that. You love doing this, and now you're not good at it. That's an easy one to fix. And that's probably the easiest one to fix. Just get trained. You really love doing it, and that's something where people will put in the passion, they will put in the hours of practice, and they will slowly improve their skill. It may take you time, but you will really hit that sweet spot, because that helps you move to the right zone, and you become really good at it. Because any case you are enjoying it, skill is the most learnable part of it. So you enjoy singing, take classes. You enjoy painting, take classes. You want to learn to write, contact Aditi. And then you have the third. This is a tough one. Really, amongst all of them, this is a tough one. You need to be able to figure out there are things in life that you can do very well. This is not about skill, but you don't enjoy it. I once met a doctor, and I sort of discovered this entire paradigm. When I discovered this doctor, who is a very successful cardiac surgeon, has one of the biggest houses in the city, is very famous. And when I met this person, I said, well, you must really be crazy about medicine. And he says, you know what? I would give up surgery tomorrow morning if I could. And I said, and do what? And the person said that, I would love to be a violinist. Now, truth be told, that I've heard this person play the violin. And the most politest way I can describe that is that the person is not a good violin player. The problem with violin is that in the initial stages when you're trying to get the notes, it sounds pretty much like a puppy. If you step on the tail of a puppy, you hear that. I mean, that's pretty much what the guy's violin was sounding like. But that's really what the guy really wanted to do. 3 years later, I heard this guy again. The guy has improved. So really, the person has moved from, a situation where the person was not very good at it, but sheer passion makes this person move to that magic fourth quadrant. A lot of us get stuck in careers because we've made career choices very early in our life. We are 15 and 16 when we need to decide whether you want to do science or arts or commerce. And then you get a career choice. I told you my choices were not extremely educated. But the whole matter is that it is never too late to decide when to change. How do you do that? What do you do when you are, say like me, I worked for many years. And if you are in that zone where you don't enjoy what you do, what do you do? In my case, I really love what I do. But I discovered that the entire thing meant a little bit of fine-tuning. And what that basically means is, how do you bring in your hobbies into your own work? Now, this is an interesting example. I'm interested in drawing cartoons. So instead of making, slides where I use the printed word or the PowerPoint formats, I use that as an excuse to, illustrate them with my own cartoons. Or if I write something, I illustrate the article with my own cartoons. So that's a way in which you can sort of bring the hobby in. No matter where you are, it is possible to do that. No matter how many years into your career you are, and you have that realization that you don't enjoy what you are possibly good at, you don't get the buzz out of that, the opportunity is either you go back to the left quadrant and start all over again and say, what would I want to do? And there are a number of examples. There are doctors who've been trained, who've quit that and started music bands. And they are far better known as musicians than they are as doctors. There are plenty of examples. There are people who've spent their entire corporate life doing a different kind of work until they discovered the novelist in them. There are people who've written their first novel at the age of 75 and have continued to write prolifically since after that. So there is no age at which you need to have this realization. It is just that you need to spend the time and think, what do I need to do to hit that sweet spot where I can leverage my skills, which I can always improve. And today there are classes for every kind of subject that you wish to learn. It's available, it's free, it's online, you can do it whenever, you can do it wherever, you can do it with whoever. Every single master of the subject is today running their classes or giving you advice online for free. So building your skill is no longer a problem. We can all do that. What really is missing is for us to discover that other question. What do I really enjoy doing? So it is no longer it's not even about two questions to ask. It's about asking that single question, what do I really enjoy doing? Because if you really enjoy doing that, and the more precisely you can answer that question, the more you will enjoy taking the road less traveled. Because the road less traveled, at the end of the day, what works for me may not work for you. So you have to discover your own truth, because at the end of it, our gene pool makes us unique human beings. So find what you really are passionate about, what you can do day in and day out by losing track of time, and that is really the road less traveled. Thank you very much.